everybody to join. Right, so people are just joining at the moment, so we'll just give everyone a few seconds to join, and then we'll get cracking.
I can see some familiar names. Good morning, everybody.
So just to remind everyone, we are on a webinar rather than a meeting, so it's slightly different. One of the big differences, we can't see you and you can't see each other. So you don't have to be quite as on it as when you do a meeting. So yeah, so welcome to everyone, obviously, for joining, and thanks to Pete for taking this session. I'll hand it over to Pete in a second, but I just want to kind of do a very quick bit of housekeeping for everybody. So the session's recorded. It will be available to watch back. For those who are partners of the Northern Affinity, it will be saved as well, and kind of as a on-demand service. You can watch at any point, whether watching it back or for people who weren't able to make it now, they'll be able to see that. And all the how-to webinars will be available on there as well. So for forever and a day, it'll be whatever Pete says today will be there. We're going to be doing these sessions on a weekly basis. So next week, we've got Phil Story is going to be looking at website security for WordPress websites. So that'll be coming next week. I'll leave it up to Pete how he wants to take the questions. But again, one of the slight differences with webinars is that there's a little Q&A box at the bottom. So if you do have any questions, feel free to type it in there. And then obviously Pete can either take that as we go through, or if he wants to, he can take it at the end. So I'll stop doing my little bit and hand it over to the bit that you all logged on to, and that's to listen to Pete. So I'll let Pete introduce himself and tell us all about the stuff that he's going to do. So over to you, Pete.
Thanks, Michael, for the introduction. So good morning, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the managing director of SalesStar in the UK, and we work with businesses and sales teams to transform sales performance. And Michael has kindly invited me this morning to share some hints and tips about creating a winning mindset in sales. I think as we're going through this, although I can't see you and you can't ask sort of verbal questions, if you want to either tap in the chat facility or in the Q&A, I will stop and answer the questions, I think, as we go along, if that's okay with you, Michael, and everybody. And also, if you could just put in the chat facility, can you hear me as well? Can you just make sure that everybody can hear me? Because I don't want to be talking and people can't hear me. I'm getting some notifications there that can hear us, Michael.
Certainly are, Pete. Yeah, all in that.
Fantastic, that's great. So this is going to last about sort of 45 minutes. I'm going to share some of our experience and some insight into some of the science and research behind this as well. And as Michael said, this is going to be available on the YouTube channel for Northern Affinity. And if you've got any specific questions that you don't want to ask, but you'd rather ask one-to-one, or you want some more information, then please do reach out to me after this as well. So this is what I'm going to discuss this morning. I'm going to talk about some of the challenges that we face in growing sales in our business and creating a winning mindset. I'm going to share with you some insights into some of the research we've done with another partner and the impact it has on our effectiveness. I'm going to talk about the issue of positivity is a choice. I'm going to talk about some key steps you can take to remain positive. And I'm also, if we get time at the end, Michael, I just want to share some thoughts on self-leadership to maintain positivity and the impact that your own behaviours can have on those people around you, and particularly your clients. And the reason I put this picture up is that the guy in the green top, who you can see, is actually my running coach. He's a friend of mine, Dave Clarkson. And at the start of the year, I did the Run Every Day challenge in January. And Dave isn't in business, doesn't have his own business. But one thing he reminded me of was how positive an impact having other people around you and the impact it can have on mindset when you're trying to achieve things. And a lot of people that we deal with say, I went into business, Pete, but I didn't want to go into sales. And I actually think that everything that you want to do to succeed is all about mindset. And every day, Dave will actually send me a text in the morning saying, have a fantastic day. And remember that if you're going for a run tonight, the alternative isn't to sit on the couch, Pete, even if it's pouring it down with rain. And instead, before we started, I was just talking to Michael about his goal, you know, when he ran every day in May as well. So, you know, just put that picture up there as a reminder that lots of different things can influence our mindset at the start of the day. So here are some things that are happening at the moment in the world. And, you know, we've just had another announcement from our Prime Minister and the government that the rules are going to change over social distancing again and how we can meet up with people. So, you know, the impact of COVID isn't going to go away, but these are some things that people are perhaps concerned about in the economy. Sales going down, deals getting stuck. We face an uncertain future, and just to add into that uncertainty, we've also got Brexit looming as well in the UK, just to add to the COVID cocktail. Some clients are telling us that their customers are disengaging with them because budgets are under pressure. People don't have as much money to spend. Some of your prospects might be too busy in a damage control situation. They're trying to keep their businesses going. Some businesses are at standstill, and some businesses might be feeling that all their leads have dried up. So, you know, if you were to just look at that slide in that context and you didn't know anything else that was going on in the world, you might think, is it just time to shut down my business? You know, why should I bother? And there is so much negativity when you wake up in the morning, you turn on the TV or you turn on the radio, you watch the news, and it can actually set you up in the wrong mindset for the day. But there are a lot of people out there who are seeing that this is an opportunity to be positive as well. So these are some of the things that can impact on us negatively. And I was talking to somebody yesterday that we're looking to partner up with in business, and we were talking about the impact that COVID has had on people's mental health. And we were actually talking this in relation to not only the mental health of salespeople, but the mental health of people who are in business. And if you think about some of these topics that are on the slide here, a lot of people in business that I talked to when we first went into lockdown were actually serious concerned about keeping their company going. And some of that stress hasn't necessarily gone away. If you employ people, you might be worried, or you might be dealing with customers where they have staff that are worried about job security. And again, if you believe the figures that are coming out of government departments, there's potentially at the end of October another 300,000 people who are going to be made redundant, losing their jobs. So there's lots of issues around here. There's day-to-day pressure when you're running a business of actually meeting your own revenue targets, because if you don't build your revenue, then what's going to happen is you're not going to have a business, and that could ultimately have an impact on your own personal lifestyle. But for me, the two bottom things are the most important. Your mental well-being as we go forward, and you know we're in a sort of semi-lockdown. And the other last point here on the slide is that none of us are trained psychologists, and if anybody's a trained psychologist, kind of put it in the chat facility for me. We're not been trained or equipped to manage this sort of scenario. But the key thing is, and this is based on the research as a result of our company being a partner of Objective Management Group, is that success is 80% down to the mindset. Our Brenda's just put in that she's got a degree in psychology. So thanks so much, Brenda. And I look forward to you adding to the discussion. And Gemma's saying she can hear me. So thanks for that, Gemma, as well. So this is one of the most important things, is that mindset is everything. So there is a lot of negativity out there. There's a lot of concern about what's happening in the economy. Thanks, Ben. That's 30 years ago. Thanks for that. I'm sure you can remember some of it. So let's look at some of the things that we can do. Now, the first thing is, if you imagine the worst that's going to happen, and you believe everything that's going on, these are the sorts of things that are going to happen to you. If you imagine the worst and you wake up in the morning and think, actually, today isn't going to be a good day. These are all the bad things that are going on in the economy. These are all the bad things that are going on in my business. This is what my clients are telling to me. It can start to have an impact on you. So if you have negative beliefs, it plays tricks with your mind. It can ultimately affect your health. It can affect your energy levels. It can affect your performance. It can affect your relationships with staff if you've got staff. I know we've got Gemma on the call who's got staff. I've got my own team of coaches. It can also affect the way that you interact with your family and friends. And I've even noticed people who said, well, I'm going to resort to escapism. And, escapism can mean drinking more alcohol. With some people, it could be involved in sort of taking drugs. So this is the sort of the impact have. But the key thing, and I know some of you are on the call as solopreneurs, so you might think, well, I'm not a leader. But actually, everybody in business is a leader because you might be leading your clients. And if you focus on the worst thing that's going to happen, that's actually the scenario that you might actually create. Now, I can see we've got a question that's going to come in. Jeff Dunn, thanks for that. Jeff has been really positive, and he's just announced that the government figure is actually 350,000 job losses at the end of October, not 300,000. So it's great to see that Jeff is coming in with an even more negative figure. And thanks, Francis, for the comment there. You are what you think about most of the time. So that's true. So now, what can you do to actually change this? Hang on a minute, just let me get the right thing here. So I want to talk a little bit about some research regarding the findings regarding mindset and how this actually applies to the world of sales. So we're a partner of a company that's based in United States called Objective Management Group. And over the last 30 years, OMG, as we call them, have undertaken the biggest piece of research into what makes an individual successful in sales. They've analysed business owners, salespeople, sales managers, and they've completed over 2 million evaluations over the last 30 years in all different industry sectors, and this piece of research has been undertaken globally. And they identified 4 competencies called will to sell competencies, which come under the will to sell group of competencies. And that is desire, commitment, outlook, and responsibility. And you'll see there that the highlighted competency is around outlook. Clearly, if you've not got the desire to sell, you're not going to be able to sell. If you're not committed to getting better, it's not going to happen. If you're not responsible and you don't take responsibility for your own actions, it's not going to happen. But the key thing is having a positive outlook. And you'll see on the slide there, by the way, for Jeff Dunn, Jeff, that's not a picture of me, by the way, the yellow smiley face. But, people don't want to deal with negative people. And it's easy to get drawn into other people's conversations about negative people. And, if you surround yourself with negative people, it is like a virus, to pardon the pun about the coronavirus, but you will become more negative. So the second piece of insight from the research with Objective Management Group was they also looked at 6 competencies which they call sales DNA, and these are psychological weaknesses, and we refer to these as the 6 things that can get in the way of an individual implementing skill. So I'll just run through these briefly, but the need for approval is about whether you need to be liked by your customers and your prospects. It's not whether you want to be liked, it's whether you need to be liked. And these types of individuals will tell you that all their customers are their friends. And interestingly, people who have a high need for approval by their customers or their prospects will get involved in discounting. They'll do far more for their clients than the clients pay for, and they'll get business at any sort of cost to their business. Controlling emotions is really self-explanatory, because on one level it's about, if you're challenged you get angry, but it's also about, do you really listen when you're in a meeting? And then we've got handle rejection. Money weakness is not whether you go out on Saturday shopping and spend loads of money. It's actually about how comfortable you are discussing money with your prospects and clients. But you'll see the one that's highlighted there is self-limiting beliefs. And these are beliefs that we carry around in our head, which can have a positive impact on our ability to sell, or a negative impact on our ability to sell. And if anybody would like a list of the limiting beliefs that OMG analyse as part of this assessment, if you want to send me a message or put a message in the chat facility, I'll send you a list of the self-limiting beliefs. But as an example of a self-limiting belief could be, I can't speak to a decision maker. I can't speak to a finance director. I need to educate my prospects before I pick up the phone to a prospect. I need to educate my clients. There's lots and lots of different self-limiting beliefs. An example of one of my self-limiting beliefs is, I can't speak to HR directors. And that self-limiting belief has come through a bad experience that I've had with a company that's got a senior HR director. So we all carry beliefs around in our head, and it's understanding why those actually get in the way of us having success. Thanks, Karen and Ed. I'll definitely get you those across to you as well in terms of the limiting beliefs. So let's look at some of these things and the actions that we can actually take. So let's start with positivity. Now, some people say, it's not a choice. Are you born like this? Are you born negative? Are you born positive? Actually, when you wake up in the morning, you actually have a choice over whether it's going to be a good day or a bad day. And one tip I'm going to share with you is, sometimes it's easy to think, oh, the world is bad. There's lots of negative things actually going on. Sometimes what you've got to do, and I do this quite a lot, is actually write down what you're grateful for and the good things that are actually happening in your life. And a really good friend of mine, who's called Dave Evans, no relation, he came up with something a few years ago called the law of comparison. And he said, if you actually compare your life to other people's lives, you'll realize how positive and what you should be and what you're actually grateful for in your life. And don't focus on the things that are negative. So positivity is actually a choice. And the other thing about positivity, it's about actually truly showing up. And just linking this back to Outlook, how many of you who are listening to the webinar will buy off somebody who's miserable? And how many of your customers are you tolerating that I call mood hoovers? So think about it. If people have a view of you do you radiate positivity and energy, or are you a mood hoover and you soak other people's energy as well? And thanks, Michael, for the comment there. Positivity is infectious. And it truly is. So you've got a choice when you wake up in the morning as well. And thanks, Francis. No negative Nellies for me. So let's just move on here. Can I really choose my attitude? Well, yes, you can. So you can choose your attitude. It's a choice. You can choose your attitude when there's lots of negativity going on around you. You can choose to be positive. Also, when you are provoked or challenged by clients, and we all live in the real world. We all have clients who can be challenging. A customer or a prospect might send you an email which might provoke a reaction, but it's about choosing to how you respond to it. And one of the key things is there's a lot of talk about emotional intelligence, emotional quotient, but it's being aware of the impact of others on how you feel as well. So somebody once used this expression with me. Somebody was coaching me a few years ago and said, Pete, what you're allowing people to do is to wrench your brain. And he said, you wouldn't allow those same people to come and rent your house from you. He said, how would you feel if you got home one day and those people who were having a negative impact on you were actually in your house? And they'd eaten all the food out of your fridge and drunk all your wine and beer. I said, well, I actually wouldn't be very happy. He said, well, that's what they're doing to your brain. You're allowing them to rent your brain. So developing your own emotional intelligence, your own emotional quotient will actually help you in how you deal with others as well. And the last point there about apply the act as if principle is actually so important. There are sometimes things that happen in business that can internally cause you to get angry or upset. But actually what you do is if you transfer somebody else's anger or upset onto a prospect or to a client, you're only ultimately damaging yourself. So what you have to do, and I'm going to share some of these techniques with you shortly, is actually act as if that hasn't happened. And it comes back to, I have a choice. Every time somebody speaks to me, and if they're negative to me, I choose to be positive. And I'm not going to react to somebody else's negativity as well. And probably everybody could see Jeff Dunner's quite kindly shared his favourite quote from Andrew Carnegie. Give me a person of average ability, but a burning desire to succeed, and I shall deliver to you a successful person every time, 100%. I'd just like to add to Jeff's comment as well. I, over the years, have dealt with many people who've got talent, but they don't have the right mindset to implement that talent. And an interesting quote from Dave Curlin, who's the founder of Objective Management Group. He says, a individual who has strong sales DNA, so the 6 factors I talked about on a previous slide, and average ability, will always outperform a salesperson who's got strong ability but poor sales DNA, because it is all down to mindset in everything that we do. So I'm going to move on now, and let's look at some tactics to maintain positivity with what's going on and create a winning sales mindset. So we've got a image on the screen there of somebody running. Those of you who know me, I'll know that I'm not built for running, but running is one of the things that I do to maintain a positive mindset. I live in a village which has lots of hills around it. So that can have a negative impact on, whether I'm going to get out and go running. But exercise is a key thing, as you'll see, to maintaining a positive mindset, and it can re-energize you as well. So I've put that image on just to emphasize that if you do something positive, it can energize you as well. And when you're selling to people is one of the best things you can do. It's also one of the most challenging things that you can do. So you have to be prepared. So the first thing that I want to talk about here is taking advantage of different brain patterns. And I've got some notes on this which I'm happy to sort of share. And in the context of this morning's webinar, I can't go into the definitions of the beta, alpha, the theta, and the delta definitions of brainwaves. But what I will do is give you a quick sort of overview. If you look at the top here of the slide, we've got awake with mental activity. This is where, when we're actually at work, we're busy, we're doing things, there's lots of things going on, we've probably got to spin lots of plates, and we're not really learning everything. So there's a lot going on, and this is where, in dealing with salespeople, particularly, and business owners who are looking to grow their business, we find a lot of these people are in this state here, where they're operating at the beta level. There's lots going on, but they're not resting. Interestingly, if you look at the alpha level, which I'm going to talk more about in a moment, this is awake and resting, and this is where a lot of learning can go on. We're talking here about people meditating, thinking, the opportunity to learn. This is where you refresh. It's where you put yourself in the mental zone. So I wanted to show this slide here to say, actually, if you're going to put yourself into the right mindset for selling, it's not just about this busy activity up here. It's actually taking the opportunity to step back, meditate, learn, practice, and rest your brain. And if you think about this in terms of sport and even running, for example, this is what I call the person who's sprinting. But if you think about running a marathon, you don't get many sprinters who run. You couldn't run a marathon at the same pace that you could run 100 or 200 meters. So actually understanding this and the impact, and taking time out to sometimes rest your brain. And how many of us, and you can be honest here, how many of us sometimes, have you ever heard the expression, I wished I could actually take my brain out for a day and just rest it and lock it away, because actually I'm feeling overwhelmed. So that feeling of being overwhelmed can come with all this mental activity. And if you think about it, your brain is a very complex computer. And what happens when you try and overload your computer with too much software? It gets overloaded, and we have to reboot it. So this is about rebooting your brain whilst you're awake here. Any questions or comments to that before I move on? I've got a couple of comments. Thanks, Dennis. I think we've all been in that. And thanks, Francis. I think it's not a good place to be yet. I like that. So, and thanks for that comment, Dennis, about Alpha's use of visualization too. Yes, it is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at the Alpha level program. So what are the things that you can do where you're awake, but you're actually resting your brain? Okay. Now, I know that the work landscape has changed massively in the last 6 months. So people are actually doing less traveling. Okay, so there isn't necessarily time to listen to podcasts and things in the car, but there are things that you can do to program your brain. And this is all about changing behaviors. So if you want to get better at something and improve your skill, if you look at the woman here on the bus going to work, listening to something, block out time to listen to podcasts, block out time to listen to TED Talks, block out time to listen to audiobooks. We've all got time where we can program our brain with different information, positive information. People can have an impact on us. Going out for a run, taking exercise, going for a walk, that gives our brain opportunity to think about challenges we might have in the business. Dennis has mentioned about visualization. Taking the time to visualize the outcome of a meeting, thinking about the positive outcome of that meeting. Actually, just going out for a walk, you can visualize things, and sometimes just going for a walk and taking a pad and visualizing it as well, what the outcomes are going to be, because it's amazing how our brain can actually put negative thoughts into it and put negative outcomes into it as well. Thanks, Michael, for your comment there. That's something I do about listening to a podcast, and it takes you away from thinking. And Brenda, your comments about finding the way to get the headspace. For me, it's also about the discipline as well of getting into that space. So I'm also going to share something with you, and this is really relevant because it's happened to me. I got a call last week from Sales Town, New Zealand, saying we've got an opportunity for you to deliver a program to a company in Mexico. We understand that you're a Spanish speaker. The last time we actually spoke business Spanish to anybody was about 7 years ago. And the thought was going around in my head thinking, I'm just going to say no because I'm just going to embarrass myself. So that they were negative messages that I was sending to my brain. And what I did was I actually went on to Google and I found a company where I could do some business practice Spanish. Yesterday, I had to take a test online to do with my oral and written communication in Spanish. And I was really disappointed when the mark that came back was B-. And I thought, well, do you know what? I'm just going to sack this off. I'm just going to ask a refund for the class that I booked this morning at 8 o'clock. I went onto the class this morning, and after 30 minutes, the lady delivering the one-to-one coaching with me said, actually, your command of the Spanish language is really good. You're not going to have any problems on a business call. But yeah, I'd gone into it thinking she's probably going to tell me that I can't communicate in Spanish. So it's all about programming and the messages that you're sending yourself. And thanks, Jeff. Hola, Pete. Yes, dos cervezas, Jeff. So it's all about how you program your brain and the message that you're sending, and just taking these breaks are really important. So let's look at some more activities that you can take to maintain positive attitude to selling. So we talked a little bit about the alpha level programming. I read a book by a lady called Mel Robbins called The 5-Second Rule. It's really interesting because her life was in a complete mess. She was going to go bankrupt. She was going to lose her house, lose her family. And she talked about procrastination. And the 5-second rule came up because she worked out that what most people do in the morning is their alarm clock goes off. And what they keep doing is they keep pressing the alarm clock onto snooze. And she said she'd worked out that was what she was dealing in her life. So what she did was she started putting the alarm clock in the bathroom. So if the alarm clock's in the bathroom, You have to actually get up. And she said, every decision you take in your life, you've got 5 seconds. So she stopped procrastinating. He said, people put off decisions because they have too long to think about it. So you can actually use the 5-second rule to apply to it and stop making excuses. The last point there about upbeat music is so important as well. If you're going to listen to music, don't listen to something that's going to make you more miserable. Listen to something that's going to have a positive impact. Remember the act it as if principle from before. The third one might seem like common sense, but good diet is so important. And I'm going to talk about diet in 2 ways here. Diet in terms of what you feed your body, in terms of food and energy. So if you eat rubbish food, that's going to have an impact. But it's also about what do you feed your brain. What information do you feed your brain? So it's not just about diet in terms of food, but what information do you actually feed your brain on a daily basis? The fourth point is really, really important. I'm pretty certain that on this call today, we've got people who've had some highs and lows in their business and personal lives. But surrounding yourself with positive people is so important. So choose the people that you hang out with positively. And I'll share a couple of examples here. So I have somebody in my family who's actually really negative. The day that we went into lockdown, he rang me and said, "That's going to be the end of your business, isn't it? Who's going to want to buy sales transformation when all these companies are going to be going bust?" I then spoke to somebody else who's in my team who said, "Pete, I think we've never had a better opportunity to grow our business. Our services will be so in demand." And I'm pretty certain in the last 6 months that you'll have spoken to people on both sides of the fence. And, Karen just posted there about, dealing with challenges and knowing if it's to do that. This is a really good example where you can surround yourself with positive people. And the fifth point, talk about how you feel to people that you trust. It's about getting a balanced opinion, but it's about setting it in perspective as well, because you still have a choice every day in terms of what you do and the mindset that you have. So these are some tactics you can do to maintain positivity. So I've got about 5 minutes left, so 45 minutes, but I've got a bit of bonus material if you want me to carry on, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely, Pete. Yeah, I'm sure everyone's getting lots of benefit from this. So, I mean, just to mention before you do, if anyone does want to ask a question and actually come on the video, you can actually do that by raising your hand, and I can click you on. So, obviously, I'll let Pete do the next bit. But at the end, if you do want to do that, then you can do. But yeah, Pete, please continue.
Okay, so this the next slide I want to put is obviously there will be people that you deal with in businesses that are in leadership positions, but I'm going to relate this to self-leadership as well, and some of the some of the tips here as well. And we're sending messages out all day long. We're sending messages out when we speak to people, when we phone them up. We are sending messages in terms of our email communication. We're sending messages in terms of the way that we communicate on social media. And that's all, in the last few years, that's opened up a whole other issue in terms of what you follow. So it's all about how you communicate, and you have a choice. And I talked before about, your emotional quotient, and we talked about controlling emotions, which RMG measures as well. So it's about an awareness here, and there's a lot we can do. Now, the reason that I've put a picture of the New Zealand Prime Minister on here, and obviously because we're in a joint venture with a company in New Zealand, is that if you think about the way that the New Zealand Prime Minister has handled the challenges with COVID and the way that our Prime Minister has handled the challenges of COVID, two completely different approaches to the way that you handle things and the clarity of communication. And this isn't a political statement. What I'm saying here is that you can have different approaches to the way that you do things and the respect that you can you can do. And when you're leading others, you're not necessarily leading people in teams. You're leading your customers. That's really, really important. And this is actually so relevant to sales. We had an expression at the start of the lockdown: be a beacon to your clients. That's really, really important. Be the lighthouse to your clients. Don't be the mood hoover. That's really, really what people are looking for, clarity. The second point about regular communication. There's never been a more important time when you're selling to communicate both to your prospects, but more importantly, communicate to your clients. I know we've got we've got 3 people on the call involved in sort of marketing, and I know this figure's bandied about a lot. It costs 5 times more to get a new client than it does to get some more revenue out of an existing client. But I've been amazed with some of our own customers how poor they've been at communicating with their existing clients. You know, there's a lot of people out there who are concerned and worried in business. And if you're the one person who rings up an existing customer and says, let's just have 30 minutes on the phone, let's talk about some of your challenges, I think we might be able to help you. It's all about regular communication. And you can even do things like getting your clients together on a video round table and discussing challenges together. You may not get any direct money out of that initially, but people will see you as the beacon. Use this as an opportunity to inspire your clients. Talk about, share what some of your challenges are, but put a positive outlook on what some of those challenges are. And there's some research done in the global financial crisis in 2008, which shows that those business owners that saw it as an opportunity to grow and they were focused on growing came out of the global financial crisis much stronger and built their businesses quicker than people who just focused on pure survival. I've heard a lot of people in the last 6 months say, we're just focusing on survival. Focus on, be a beacon and say, actually, we're actually gonna grow as well. Great point, Simon. A question I ask clients is, when was the last time they emailed our client base to say hello? Fantastic. Sharing the pain with your team builds loyalty. Some of you are solopreneurs. I think Karen raised a really good point. In Northern Affinity, you've got an extended team. If you've got a particular challenge, you can reach out to people within the Northern Affinity team. That actually builds loyalty with people in your extended team. And the last point here, and this is something that we do in our team, but if you've not got a team, you can buddy up with other people. We do this thing called a daily huddle, where we just get together for 5 minutes and talk about some of the things that we've got on for that day and that we're doing. So I think there's lots of things that you can do. Then this is something that leaders do as well. So I'm going to open it up to the floor now. And has anybody got some questions and answers?
Before we go to that, Pete, like I said, if anyone wants to come on the video, they're more than welcome to. And I know there's already a question in there. I just wanted to share a couple of things from what you've said. My experience actually is that So I used to work with somebody, and when we were in a business development role, and we did a piece of work when we looked at basically when people were performing well and when they weren't performing well over the past 12 months, what were they doing? What were the differences between those times? And one of my colleagues, actually, one of the big things for him was he used to cycle to some of his appointments if it was relatively local. And when he did that, his results were outstanding. So he kind of had that headspace. He had that. It was something he loved doing and enjoying. And the difference that made is essentially his mindset was in a better place when he turned up. And kind of we all had different things, but essentially kind of came back to what our mindset was. So I think it's very relevant to the type of things you've talked about as well. And I guess I'll start with a question, if you don't mind, Pete.
Yeah, sure.
Is how important is it, do you think, to celebrate the little wins in life and in business? So if, it could be anything. It could be getting a new connection that you've wanted to get on LinkedIn, arranging a meeting, arranging a call, whatever it may be. How important is it to kind of celebrate that and kind of keep that momentum going and keeping that positive mindset?
I think it's so important to celebrate the small wins, because we talk about, incremental gains. And actually, it's the small things that lead to the big wins. So, if you're working, if you've got for example, a prospect list, and and I'm going to talk about this more in the next webinar that I do. But actually, if you've got metrics in place and you know that perhaps you've got to speak to 20 people to get one client, and each day you're ringing 2 or 3 prospects, and you do that consistently, it's the consistency as well. So I think, what I do is I focus on what are the 3 things I've got to do in my business each day to drive that business forward. And, a lot of it's about communication, but, what I'll do is I'll ring people in my team and we'll celebrate the small wins, say that's something you've done that's really well. And that might be a small win that we're moving things forward. So I think that's so important that you do that.
Absolutely. So you may have seen the question from Gemma in the Q&A as well. So you've obviously, right to the end there, you mentioned about sharing the pain, but kind of any hints and tips on how you do that in a positive way?
Yeah, I think a really good way to do it, and if you get 2 or 3 other people on the, you can do it in a Zoom meeting or a Microsoft Teams meeting, and just do it on a sort of virtual whiteboard and say, okay, let's look at this challenge together. And, generally speaking, if you're dealing with a challenge, talk about a problem shared is a problem halved. If you share that challenge with somebody else, they'll see some positives from it that you might not do, because you can also be too close to the challenge as well. And so you will drive positives out of it. Now, sometimes it might be, you might get, a blunt reaction from a prospect or even an existing client. What I say is, well, actually, I've got a choice in how I respond to that negativity. And actually, if a prospect is proving to be too painful in the sales process or a bit of a pain in the backside, I say, well, okay, what we're going to do then is does that meet our values? Or are we just trying to bring the client on because it'll look good for the business or it brings some more revenue in? And actually, what I say is, well, actually, if they don't want to do business with us, let's take the positives, because we can focus on other people that want to do business with us. So I think everything is so positive. Dennis has just put a comment in about goal setting and strong motivation, and I think that's so important as well. If you've got strong personal goals and you've got a purpose, then that aligns you as well. But yeah, Gemma, does that answer your question about sharing pain in a positive way?
Hopefully, yes, it does.
Yeah, we've got a yeah. She's put yes. Thanks, Gemma. So do you want to open it up and see if anybody's got any? Has anyone got any live questions or other questions they'd like answering?
Yeah, if anyone would like to answer, obviously do. I think there's the really interesting point, actually. A lot of things can kind of connect this together. Is one of the things that we mentioned right at the start, Pete, was this news recently of, I think, Jeff said it was 350,000 redundancies we're expecting by the end of October. And now I think, speak for everyone on this, that's not good news for those people losing their jobs. We all know that, and no one wants to see that. But the people on this call, and maybe the people watching this, there's a lot of people who have businesses that essentially what you offer is an outsourced service.
Yes.
So businesses will still need marketing, they'll still need HR and sales and IT or whatever it might be. So there's opportunities there. And I would imagine that some of those 350,000 people will set up their own businesses and go freelance and kind of work. But also the people on this call and other people, there is opportunities. Business will still need to be done. So it's kind of taking that negative news that none of us want to hear, but taking the positives out of that and understanding and realizing the opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that people are being made redundant presents lots of different opportunities. There's going to be some great talent out there, and there's opportunities to collaborate. And the other thing that we often talk about is that the economy might be shrinking, but how do you make your business ready for a greater share of a smaller pie? Because this is the really interesting thing that we've seen in the last few months is, whilst your competition is running around like a headless chicken saying, woe is me, the economy is declining, are you sending out a positive message saying, we're open for business?
Absolutely, I agree. And I think one thing I'd say is obviously there is kind of this idea of the opportunities going around. Obviously, there was all the bounce back loan opportunities that people had. If people looking to invest in their business and grow, there's things like that could be used. That's hopefully trying to stimulate the economy. There's schemes like some people may be aware of the Kickstarter scheme, essentially the government paying for people to work for your business for 6 months. There's various things out there that could really help a lot of people. And obviously in those cases, you're helping the individuals and you're helping your business as well. So like I said, if you look at the negatives all the time, but there is opportunities out there. So you may have seen another question from Gemma Pete on the Q&A.
Yeah. I'm just interested in the comments put there. I'm naturally positive. My husband would say cavalier because I always believe everything will work out. I think sometimes other people can feel that because of this, I'm being dismissive of their concerns. Or any tips? I think, Gemma, that's a great point because I'm a very positive individual. I think the important thing is to acknowledge people's concerns and ask them why do they feel like that and what's prompted that feeling. And also it's also recognise that our personalities are all different. So I'm at the end of the scale to everyone on the call where I just think, okay, I'm going to try this, and if it doesn't work, I'll bank some learning. Where I've got other people in my team who will say, "Do you understand what the risks are?" And I said, "Well, if we don't get on and try it, somebody, our competitor, might do it." So I think, Gemma, it's about having a balance and taking into account other people's feelings and say, okay, if you are a bit more nervous about this or you're not as positive, I wouldn't say you're not as positive as me. I'd say, let's just discuss why you wouldn't want to go ahead with this, or why does this need to take a bit more planning, and so that you don't come across as being dismissive. And also, what you'll do is you'll get more buy-in from that individual as well. So maybe with Michael, if you just say to him, so why are you concerned about this, or why do you think this is not going to be successful? It's all about trying to get the middle ground. Does that help, Gemma?
Yes, it looks like it does. So that's
really helpful.
We'll see on that one. Let's put
Karen's put, using a basic risk assessment approach is a great way to rationalise decisions. I think that's a great point, Karen, and that's something that we do as well. So that's a great thing. Anybody, any other questions? I know you all found this beneficial this morning.
I think that looks like it from the questions. Obviously, I'm sure, Pete, if anyone does have any questions that pops up in the head later on, I'm sure Pete happy to drop you an email or something, give you a call at some point to answer that. So obviously, I'd like to, on behalf of everyone, thank you, Pete, for your time. It's been really, really useful and really helpful. And Pete is going to do another one of these webinars in, I think it's about 3 or 4 weeks' time. Like I said, we're going to be doing these on a weekly basis on all sorts of different topics and areas. For the guys in the Northern Affinity, it will be available to watch back even if you can't make that particular time. But yeah, so thank you, Pete, first and foremost.
You're welcome.
I think everyone seems to have got a lot from it. And thank you to everyone else for attending.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
See you later, guys.